How did you break? I guess in the film room, how did you break it down?
Well, I broke it down as a situation where it was a crucial, moment in the game, obviously. So you got to look at all the parameters there late in the game. So we had already seen pretty much, 3 other plays, so we kind of knew what the plan was. But at the end of the day, you've got to go out and protect. We've got to go out and snap, hold, and kick. I've got to go out and coach and all those things. So I just kind of look at it as situation arises, we've got to make our performance. We've got to do our jobs.
Did Joel just get pushed back too far? And why did that happen on this particular play?
I'm not going to call out a specific player because everybody involved starts with me. You have to understand the situation. First of all, if the guy that blocked the kick was in a 2-point stance for the first time in the game. So his eyes were in the backfield. But footwork, leverage, all those things had to be maintained the same on every play, from the first kick to the last kick. And that's really the deal for me is what was the technique? What can we do it better? All those things. Can I coach better? You bet. All those things. So take full responsibility for that.
There was a report that came out of the Steelers locker room right after the game that they somehow were able to pick up the snap count or whatever you guys do to, from a timing perspective, and that's what allowed them to jump. I mean, is that even possible? Do you guys use the same count or whatever it is, timing going into these kicks?
Well, everybody, offense, defense, special teams, always tries to get a jump off the ball, right? So you better be a ball key team. If your eyes are looking at the wrong thing, you might get caught. There's various ways to snap a football in offense and special teams, and we have various ways to do that. Obviously, they made a good play, but relying on one particular thing to get a jump as a third down pass rusher might get you caught. The same thing on a field goal. So, we all try to develop various ways to do things. Snap count, obviously, for an offense is a lot more of a discipline type deal from the standpoint of quarterbacks 5 yards from you, holders 8 yards. So, it's not so much verbiage, right, as much about looking at other things. Most importantly for us, keying the ball.
Did Zane get that ball high enough?
I don't think it was as high as the previous 3, to be quite frank, but who knows, whether or not it had, the ball to get over. I don't think that anybody could look at it, and I've looked at every copy you could have. I don't think anybody could say whether it was going to the direction that it needed to go or not based on, how quick the play was, a bang-bang play in terms of that. It was a good snap, it was a good hold, and he had a good plant. And which he had on the previous one. So you kind of got to trust the process that he had already been out there. I thought Zane did an excellent job in reality of handling some tough extra points, as we know is not an extra point anymore. It's a 33-yard field goal. I thought he had handled the game up to that point so you could trust him to go out there and make that kick.
When they started to kick short and kind of make you guys return, you weren't really able to get much going in the kick return game. What happened?
Well, they only kicked short the one time when they kicked it, now, did the ball land in the end zone or on the 2 or 3 yard line down the middle of the one time? Yeah, but we had the same kick ourselves land there. So I don't know if you could call that a true plan or not, because both of us had the same ball, the same type kicker kicking the ball. But the biggest thing on that is awareness of where the ball is in your side of the field from a blocking standpoint. Backside has to know their chase angles are not going to be as great. And that was a plus 50. We had one of those as well, where the ball was spotted on the 50-yard line after the penalty. So those are factors that you knew going in. Some teams are going to kick the ball out of the end zone, play defense. Some teams are going to put the ball on the goal line and try to, get you pinned inside the 20. And we've got to cinch up the blocking a little bit, awareness of sticking our foot in the ground and climbing back. And that's where it truly does kind of turn into a punt return, because you don't have the separation in space from, a normal kick from the 35-yard line.
Yesterday You said Jabrill was going to be the #1 punt returner, and that Antonio had to earn the trust of the coaches. Was there something specific in the opener from Antonio that you didn't like, or just kind of throughout you just need to see more from him?
Well, the biggest thing is you're still dealing with a player that's a first-year player. And, so ebb and flows of games can dictate sometimes where those inexperienced players, fall into. And, the biggest thing is staying in. Now, obviously, he came in the game and fielded the kickoff, when Jabrill needed a break. So, you kind of got to trust the process with young guys. You kind of got to expect that from them. And Jabrill has a year under his belt with this. So, and Coach made that decision, and obviously we're going to stick by it as coaches. We're going to do what the hell we're told. But the biggest thing is I think, it's just going to be a learning curve. You're talking about a guy that's still a year out of football and the nuances of the game, and particularly this league. And now the time he was in, there was a bad ball, that he didn't get a chance to catch. And that might have, once a guy like that gets a spark and gets a ball and grass in front of him, I think you might see the type of player that we know he is.
He couldn't have done anything different on the ball that might have hit Nick or not hit Nick. Antonio couldn't have gotten to that ball.
We've got to do a better job of awareness. One thing is we ask our players a lot of times not to be that far downfield when they're not a skill type position. So, we like to do our work with the 8 guys or the 7 guys, whatever we got. We like to do our work inside that 20 yards of the line of scrimmage, because by then you're probably in an eyesight of where the returner is. And I think that's the whole thing. Again, you just got to learn as a player that where you're at in location. And, playing at home, you get a little bit of voice communication of get away from it, whatever you're using. And then also in a scenario where, we always are telling the return guys to make sure you're communicate and continuously communicate. But also we have to know as coverage or as blockers where the day-come ball is.
Did it hit him?
I'm not going to say it did or didn't, because I never saw that. One thing I never saw was the trajectory of the ball change. The ball was a knuckler coming off anyway. It was an Aussie rotation. So when it hit the ground, most of those balls that hit the point are going to go straight up in the air. And so I just never saw the ball's rotation. And quite frankly, as we all know, whatever that play was called on the field was probably how that play was going to turn out. And we had the advantage there because they called it as a no-contact play. So
The penalties on the returns, how do you clean those up? It's not just a Browns problem, it's a league-wide problem.
it's an epidemic, you're saying.
It feels like every time there's a punt or a kick return that's halfway decent, there's always a penalty. And so how do you
Well, the first one, you can't put your hands on the back. We teach them where the official is at, and that official's a trail official. So just stopping would have probably shielded that guy. But when you do anything with your hands on the backside of a guy's jersey, that call is going to come. And then on the other one, it's about getting your leverage and your feet, and then the ricochet of thinking I'm going to hip him, but I really don't need to hip him, because it wasn't a call. The second one wasn't a call from a standpoint of hooking or throwing. We teach them not to torque. You throw in this league, you're going to get called. But it was a matter of fact of a guy trying to get 2 guys. So effort, great. But a little bit more awareness of sometimes that guy might not have been a factor. And that would have been the interesting one on the first play. The guy might have not have made the tackle. Now he ends up, Pep gets through, bounces around a little bit, so who knows? I mean, we had a lot of open grass. I know that.
Jabrill's fair catch. The one, I think it was the one in overtime. He fair caught it. As soon as he caught it, he pounded the football in frustration because he realized that there was a lot of grass in front of him, or he might have had a seam there. How do you is that just instinct, or is that something that can be coached with the player to? I mean, because that's obviously very difficult when you're looking up at the sky, waiting for the ball to come down, and you got 10 other guys coming down to chase after you. But How can Jabrill improve or kind of change that up a little bit?
First of all, that's a ball in hand and grass, we call it. So we like those. There was a lot of grass. Trust himself. Nobody is more beat up about it than him. That's why I said Friday before New Orleans, right? We've moved on, and he has. Would he have that play back? Everybody wants a play back. The biggest thing is a trust factor. That's the thing I coach on, we harp on. Players get coached. Techniques and scheme get built around players making and developing technique. We tease the players, but we're truthful with them and tell them they invent the techniques we coach. We just get to build the drill and the scheme around what they do. No player knows more about when he's made the mistake quicker because he's the guy. It's like a guy that muffs a punt. He knows it. He's the guy. We don't need 19 guys trying to go get the ball. We need them to block so he can get the ball because he knew he dropped it first. But those are things you just got to learn to trust. Still some newness on that part, even though Jabrill's older than Callaway. But the biggest thing for us is just trust it. Your first instincts in sports is probably right. You know, I tease the players, premonition or gas pain. I usually find out about Thursday, and that's where the calls come from. You know, so it's kind of one of those deals. But I've learned a long time ago, coaching in college with great returners, coaching in this league with great returners, man, you can't second guess them. You just got to move on and the next play, because this game will come to you. Plays will come to you if you just let them and seize the moment when they're there. That's the biggest thing.
Did he look, like when he's looking up at the ball, did he look to see? I mean, can you do that? Or is he worried about losing track of the ball?
Oh, we got all kind of tricks. When you got Josh Cribbs happening, you got all kind of tricks, right? We try to get a peek as much as we can, but the bottom line, the focus is the ball. Now, go back and look at the game, and I think I'd be right in this. That was a hell of a punt, and really the best punt of the day. You know, they rose up to that occasion. Obviously, you know, there was a lot of 20-something yards probably before the next defender, or the first defender. So, but, you know, you just got to judge it, and you got to trust it. And if you get a peek pre-snap where they're lined up, where the ball's going, perfect spot. You know, couldn't have lined him up any better. But, man, I trust that kid. You know, and I'm going to trust him again this weekend.